For 12 long winters, the only sounds on the edge of Bear Ridge were the winds howling through pine trees and the steady rhythm of hooves as Jeremiah Cain rode his land alone. Folks in town called him the Ghost Rancher, not for any misdeeds, but because he'd disappeared from their world. And he liked it that way. The last time he let anyone in, it cost him everything, his wife, his child, and the will to ever love again. But that all changed on a cold September evening, when 3 women, mud-streaked, shivering, and wide-eyed, stood at the edge of his land, begging for safety. The knock on his barn door was soft but urgent. Jeremiah, leaning over a broken axle, wiped the grease off his hands and froze. Nobody ever came this far, especially not during a storm. He opened the door cautiously, shotgun within reach. There they stood, 3 women, each worn by wind and dust, each carrying bags and a quiet fear in their eyes. "Please," the oldest said, her hand protectively around the youngest's shoulders, "we need a place for the night. We've come from Kansas. There's nowhere else." Jeremiah stared at them. Strangers. Settlers. Trouble, probably. He should have sent them on their way. Instead, he stepped aside. Their names were Clara, Naomi, and Elise. Clara, the oldest, was fierce-eyed and sharp-tongued, but her kindness was sewn into every glance she gave her sisters. Naomi, tall and calm, moved with grace and quiet wisdom. Elise, the youngest, barely 20, carried a nervous tremble that said she'd seen more horror than joy. They were headed west, fleeing from something, though they didn't say what, not at first. Their wagon had broken an axle in the gorge. Their horses had run. Night had fallen. They followed the creek until it led them to the silhouette of Cain Ranch. Jeremiah gave them the guest room he hadn't opened in a decade. He lit the stove and made stew. And though he said little, he watched the way Clara guarded her sisters like a mother wolf, how Naomi silently mended her boot by lantern light, and how Elise stared at the fire as if it might leap out and burn her. 3 days turned into a week. They helped with chores. Clara patched Jeremiah's shirts. Naomi revived his garden. Elise nursed a wounded hawk that had crashed into the barn window. They still didn't say what had driven them so far west, but the story revealed itself in pieces. One morning, as Jeremiah taught Elise how to mend a saddle strap, she asked without looking up, "Did you ever lose someone you loved?" He froze. She looked up, eyes brimming. "Yes," he said quietly. "My wife and son. Fever took them." Elise nodded. "Men took our father. Our land. Our home. We were nothing to them." The silence after that felt like understanding. Winter came early that year. They huddled together often, Clara reading aloud by lantern, Naomi baking bread, Elise slowly learning to smile again. Jeremiah found himself listening for their laughter. Fixing his hair. Pulling out old furniture just so the women could have comfort. One night, as the snow beat against the windows, Clara knocked on his door. "We'll be leaving come spring," she said. Jeremiah nodded. "That's probably best." But something in him twisted. The ranch had been silent for so long. Now it echoed with life again. "Unless," Clara added slowly, "you'd consider letting us stay." He didn't answer. He wasn't ready. But he didn't say no. Come March, a man rode up the ridge, greedy eyes, a crooked grin, and a wanted poster in his hand. "Seen these girls?" he asked. Jeremiah stared at the paper, 3 drawings, rough but unmistakable. "Can't say I have," he replied, slowly lowering his hand to his hip where his revolver hung. The man narrowed his eyes. "There's a bounty on 'em. Some real rich landowner's daughters. They ran off with a stable boy. Killed him, maybe." Jeremiah smiled coldly. "Well, if they show up, I'll let you know." The man didn't return. That night, Jeremiah sat by the fire with Clara, Naomi, and Elise. They knew. He knew. Nothing more had to be said. But he spoke anyway. "I buried my heart on this land a long time ago," he said. "And now I find it again, in 3 people who brought light where there was only silence." Clara touched his hand. "You saved us." No, he said, voice rough, you saved me. Spring arrived like a breath of forgiveness. The hawk Elise rescued flew for the first time. Naomi sowed new seeds in the thawing earth. Clara sketched blueprints for a second cabin. They stayed. Not because they had nowhere to go, but because they had found where they were meant to be.